Very good morning, everybody. Welcome to another month. Welcome to another Insight series with us here at the IAB. My name is Danilo Acquisto. I'm the CEO of Special Effects Media, and exciting to be your host today. I do every month, and I really do enjoy these conversations. I always find that they are riveting, intriguing, and I really am grateful for the IAB for bringing us all together around these topics that I think affect all of our lives and the work that we do as really passionate marketers and brand builders and publishers and PR specialists in our country. So welcome to another Insight series. This time really focusing our energy in on the creator economy. I thought I'd quickly just take a stab. Let me just choose three random names from our attendee list just to welcome you all to today. Alice Cousins, nice to have you with us today. It's all in alphabetical orders. Let me scroll halfway down and say welcome to Laverne Robertson. And then scroll further down, a third one. Let's say hello to Tanya. Nice to see you all with us on the Insight series. Please do use the chat to say hi. Tell us where you're from, everybody. It would be nice to see sort of where you are today. I've noticed quite a lot of our agency and brand friends are in the building. So if you are in the publishing or PR world, give yourselves a shout out in the chat as well too. It would be lovely to hear from you. As well as don't forget, later on in our webinar, we will have a Q&A. So we're looking forward to engaging your questions. We have three incredible people today. I know probably all MCs say this when they're hosting because they're told to say that all their speakers are fantastic, but I know each of them personally, and I will tell you that each of them are probably the most passionate people that I know in their industries. And so you can expect a really passion-filled, data-led, insightful webinar today. It might leave you more like, oh my word, there's more to do than, great, I know my action plan, but certainly you will have insights, a good roadmap, and some actionable insights to take forward into your organizations moving forward. The topic of today's title, or the title of today's topic, is Unveiling the Creator Economy, Harnessing the Power of Video, Podcast, and Live Streams. And we've got three great speakers lined up today. Pierre Cassuto, the Chief Global Marketing Officer for Humans. We've got John Savage from African Podcast Network coming to zone in on African podcasting in the territory, as well as Alexandra Sorogina, the Operations Manager of Special Effects Media, to talk us through the video revolution as well. So we're going to cover what is the creator economy, how big is it in Africa compared to the world. Pierre's just returned back from Cannes, and we'll be sharing some of the insights on the creator economy from there. John's going to talk us through the podcast renaissance, and then Alex is going to take us through the video revolution, a little bit into live streaming and talking about monetization and collaboration in the creator economy itself. So it's going to be fascinating, riveting, and obviously full of some great insights today. A big thank you, obviously, always to our partners who bring these to life. You would have seen their logos on our opening sequence earlier on, but to Biz Community, Ornico, the Marketing Association of South Africa, Everlytic, and to Romework, who allow us the sort of funding to be able to put these webinars together on a monthly basis for the industry itself. So a big thank you to them and to the team behind the scenes who put these together. Hope you're warm. Let's kick this thing off. All right, ladies and gents, let's start with our first speaker. Pierre Cassuto is going to be starting off the conversation today. He's the Chief Global Marketing Officer at Humans. They're a leading AI company. They bring innovative approaches to influencer marketing and to the e-commerce world specifically, trying to find ways to interact between brands and the creator economy to drive real business value. He's one of the most passionate people that I do know. He's had many different roles globally. I mean, he was involved in businesses in Paris and Johannesburg. He was involved in pivotal roles at Ogilvy, and now really just an incredible entrepreneur. He also chairs the IAB Digital Influencer Marketing Committee, and so has been deeply invested into this creator economy world. So, Pierre, it's so lovely to have you with us this morning. I know we've had lots of chances to engage each other in these webinar formats. We've also probably shouted at each other more than usual, but you must describe why you feel like you're throwing shade today on this call with those glasses.
You just mentioned I came back from Cannes, so I thought I should bring my Cannes energy into this conversation as well.
What are those?
They are Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and basically they allow me right now to be streaming this live while you're creating content, I'm creating content. And that's basically my whole talk on the creator economy.
Sure. All righty. Well, Pierre, you are clearly look like more like a millennial or maybe even a generation older than that, but you can act Gen Z and we'll accept it from you. Nice to have you with us this morning. I'll leave the stage to you. Tell us more about the creator economy.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me, Danilo and the team. I was very excited to be here and I was very flattered until I found out the main reason I wasn't here is because your favorite preferred speaker wasn't available. So you slotted me last minute, but I'm very grateful to be here nonetheless. And I was also asking myself why, this is about the creator economy. I am the chair of the Influencer Marketing Committee. Why are you inviting me to this conversation? And one of the big conversations at Cannes was actually related to this. It was the first year that there was an entire stage dedicated to the creator economy. So 4 days, creators all day long talking about the creator economy and talking about the challenges that they face. It was the first year that you had about 1,500 creators all talking to brands, sharing their experience. And it was really interesting to see how many of the topics that they were bringing to life are the same topics we hear about in South Africa, but how this challenge of creators being conflated with influencers as if they're one and the same all the time is a big challenge that they're all facing. So I'm going to share a few clips, but first I'm going to share a clip just to prove to you that I was really there and seeking attention as I always do.
If you look at Google, what do you think Google's purpose is? Let me throw it out there. What would you say Google's MTP is? Any ideas? Any thoughts? Fantastic. What's your name? Pierre got it in one. Organizing the world's information.
So just like this stage that I wasn't initially invited to, I managed to invite myself on stage at Cannes by just fitting into different talks at different times. But within that creator economy, again, there were about 40 talks like throughout the entire time. And it was incredible to see how it was the same topics that we were hearing about all the time. So I'm going to let you listen to from two creators that were speaking at Cannes, and I'm going to show a local creator as well. And why conflating creators and the creator economy and influencer marketing and pretending like they're one and the same is really creating trouble for both sides.
From a marketing perspective, she really wants brands to not just view creators as advertising space or as a walking ad or as something you can put a product on, but she wants brands to really understand that creators are marketing all the time. That's a big part of their presence on social media. They're constantly marketing themselves, and she wants them to see creators as consultants as well, because creators know what will work for their platform, what could work on something that's not on their page. And I just think that, to close, I think that brands trusting creators more and more and letting them have a seat at the table will be the future of collaborations between creators and brands.
As a creator, but also as a consumer, I watch who brands work with and I watch what they do with those creators and I judge it. Like, I have opinions. I'm like way too opinionated. It doesn't mean I'm like gonna tell anyone those opinions, but I have them. And so that's gonna like affect it. And I feel like when you pour time and energy and budget into a creator to work with long term, it's so much more effective. And when you really make sure that they align with like the brand image, and also like it's gonna take me a while to like purchase a product or care about a product. For example, my favorite girl in the world, Alexel, I always watch her videos. I see her use the same products all the time. And she's been using this one contour. I've been dying to get it. And it's taken me probably 3 months. And I finally bought it like last week, and it's my favorite thing ever. But it took me so long of seeing her use it over and over. And I don't think she's like, it's not a brand deal that she's doing, but just as an example.
But it should be.
It should be, yeah. But she was using it so often and it always looked good and it always caught my attention. And finally, I bothered close the app, go to Safari.
You know how much you hate closing the app.
And I do. And I went to Sephora and I bought it and I don't regret it, but it took me time. And it took me like seeing her with it over and over and again and like believing that story, like she loves this, she uses it and it looks good on her. It took me time.
Some brands have come up to me and say, hey, Adrian, here's our brief. We wanted to make it, we want you to hit these points, but make it as authentic to yourself as possible. And then through the revision process, they pull every bit of me out of it. And then I literally tell them, I don't think this is gonna work. No, trust us, it's gonna work, it's gonna work, they're gonna love it. And it doesn't work. I mean, it's a gut feeling. You know, I think if a brand tells me to do something that I'm uncomfortable with, I just tell them. Honestly, yeah, why did you reach out to me and you did not watch my content? Like,
Like, why is that?
Like you said, like we turn down brands all the time if it doesn't align.
So those are all creators in Cannes that were, and I'm just showing you 2 examples, but there were hundreds of such examples. And so what we think might be a very local problem, what we hear about creative freedom or about long-term deals or about alignment, is not a local problem. It's a global problem around again, a conflating of influencer and the role of an influencer and that of a creator. And here's an example from South Africa that you might have seen from a couple of months ago.
I can't really believe I'm about to say this, but I don't like making videos anymore. I don't enjoy content creation. I don't enjoy influencing. I just feel like the life has been sucked out of me. The joy has been sucked out of me. And I think that there's a huge problem in the industry. And with like everything feeling so manufactured and scripted, and it just like gives me the ick. My own job gives me the ick. And these days, the briefs are not briefing. And they tell you exactly what you need to say. Sometimes you even get voiceovers of exactly what you need to record. And I honestly can't think of anything worse, because if you are in marketing, you know that being authentic is what is going to sell a product or get you a good return on investment. And we as consumers as well can pick it up. We can see that you don't love the fucking bar of soap. And we know that you don't use the bar of soap. So you get a shitty brief, you do the shitty brief, you post the shitty brief, you get shitty insights. You've got to send those shitty insights back to the company. And then they're like, why are your insights so bad? And in my brain, I'm like, well, you should know, but then they don't want to work with you again.
So local, global creators, struggling with how they work with marketers and how they work with brands. But this looks all very negative, but there's an all other side to the creator economy, which is that it's enabling tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people globally to be earning a living. And so this is an example again of a local creator. But really, when we speak about the creator economy, we mustn't just be thinking about influencer marketing and influencers. And I'm going to demonstrate that through one, showing the size of the economy and comparing both of them, and two, the definition, so that we can understand what each of them is, how they fit together, and when they don't fit together. But what's really important about the creator economy, again, is that it is not, when we speak about the creator economy, we are not just talking about influencer marketing. And I know we have a lot of marketers in the audience today. And so that's why I'm really hammering on that point. The creator economy and what it represents is the end of the gatekeeper economy. The gatekeeper economy essentially meant that in order to build an audience and monetize, I had to either have a license, or I had to go through people that had a license, radio, TV, publishers, or who had organized a large organization. I couldn't reach that large audience and monetize it prior. Whereas now, it is basically an open field. Anybody with enough talent, with enough hard work, with enough conviction can make a living and monetize it, not just by influencer marketing, but also by selling their content, selling their art, selling merchandise, services, all sorts of other ways in which they essentially monetize their IP. So let's start with data, just to completely show that influencer marketing and the creator economy are not one and the same. $156 billion is the size of global creator economy in 2024. Influencer marketing, $3 billion. Africa, just to compare, the creator economy in Africa is obviously a tiny drop of what the global creator economy is. And those are to scale. So there's a lot to be done, to kind of continue growing the creator economy in Africa, but you can see that we are a very small subset of the global market of the creator economy. Influencer marketing, the global size of influencer marketing, $24 billion. So you can see it's a small subset of the entire amount of money being made in the creator economy. And when we show examples of who is a creator, maybe we'll get an idea of what that is. And then this one's not a bug. If you can't see it, it's normal. $40 million, that's more or less the assumed size of the South African influencer marketing industry. So again, a small subset of the global influencer marketing industry, and a tiny drop in the ocean compared to what's being done in other markets. Now, I think the easiest way to think about the creator economy versus the influencer marketing industry is as two separate evolutions of two things that we know and understand very well. The first one is that the creator economy is the evolution of the global media and entertainment industry, a $2.4 trillion industry. And the influencer marketing industry is the evolution of the global advertising industry. Again, they speak to each other, but media and entertainment uses advertising as one way to monetize and one revenue stream. So if you start thinking about it this way, it starts making sense that creators use influencer marketing as one source of monetization, but they themselves are not just influencers. It is one of the ways in which you can interact with them and they can interact with the audience. Now, let's try to put it into practical example. So the definition of a creator is a person who runs an independent, self-funded IP business centered around a highly engaged, passionate, and loyal community. Somebody who builds their audience and sells to their audience their art. And the creators today include people like Taylor Swift, who sells her music directly to her audience, self-produced. People like, local example, Samurai Farai, young local artist who built his entire career on social media through his art and through finding people passionate about his art and his message. It includes people like Joe Rogan, it includes people like Scott Galloway. It includes Reese Witherspoon, who essentially built an entire production company and book club around licensing, buying books, and licensing those books and turning them into series and selling those series, self-produced without going through networks and through different gatekeepers. Now, all of them can act as influencers. They have some influence in some areas, but they're not defined purely as influencers. And similarly, when we think about influencers, we may think of people like Kim Kardashian, Michael Jordan, but at the end of the day, they're people with the ability to influence potential buyer of a product, but it is not the only thing that they do. Kim Kardashian is a reality TV star. Michael Jordan is a basketball player. Yes, they can influence people, but it is a role that we get them to play in advertising. So ultimately, the problem and the challenge that those creators are facing is that when we think of them purely as influencers, when we say somebody with a lot of followers on social media is an influencer, we don't look at what they do day to day, and we dumb them down as marketers to the role they can play for us, rather than what they are and how they've achieved their influence on social media or their potential influence on social media. So why that's important is because there were two kind of big pieces of advice that were shared with both marketers and influencers at Cannes around how we can do a better job of better leveraging creators and having better conversations through a longer sustainable partnership and getting better results from those partnerships. The first piece of advice was that marketers should spend more time getting to know the creators that they want to engage with. A big thing is that most creators don't understand from marketers why they want to work with them specifically. The question was, what is it about my content that makes you want to fit your brand or your market into my content? Very often we see people look at creators and go and say, here's the audience, it fits my audience, here's the engagement rates, but they don't go deeper into saying, how do I picture myself in your content? And the second part of that is that for creators themselves, creators need to do a better job of understanding that they're not just competing against other creators, they're actually competing against professional organizations like television stations, radio stations, sponsorships, and they have to do a better job of defining what they can do for brands. If you as a creator say to a brand, this is who I am, and I can do A, B, C, or D for you, you're not giving away work. If the brand says to you, I want to do F, trust me, they'll tell you, and you can decide whether you want to do it together or not. But really importantly, creators need to professionalize on their side to better represent themselves, their audience, who they speak to, and what they can do in partnerships and what previous partnerships they've done as well. So all of that to say that at the end of the day, while you've invited me as the head of the influencer marketing committee, I only represent a very, very small subset of the creator economy. And we need a better understanding that influencer marketing is a small part of that entire ecosystem. And in that way, we need to get to know the creators we want to work with as creators, as providers of creative solutions. And creators need to do a better job of explaining what they can do for brand outside of, I have X amount of followers and X amount of views.
Beautiful, Pierre, and well landed. So basically, creator economy is not influencer marketing. Influence marketing is a really small subset of the creator economy. And we need to understand that economy that we're framing ourselves in to not only engage purely as, let me buy an influencer campaign, I can do other things as well too.
Correct. They overlap, but they're not one and the same. Influencers can come from outside of the creator economy. They cannot be creators, like it can be basketball players, reality TV stars, et cetera, et cetera. And influencers can monetize and do way more than just influencer marketing. Creators don't spend their entire day just thinking about the brands they're going to work with. It's just one of the ways they monetize.
Love it. Pierre, thank you very, very much. Great insights there. And really cool to set that framework as we continue our discussion about unveiling the creator economy. And so we're going to move on to our second speaker to dive us into more around the media around the creator economy. Now that we know that the creator economy is not influencer marketing, let's dive into the world of video and monetization and how brands can engage in the creator economy moving forward. So we're going to invite on stage Alex, the operations manager from Special Effects Media, South Africa, where she works with teams creating content that stirs emotions, solving problems with daily-led creativity, and building brands through a medium that connects us all, really, ultimately, video. She started off her career in film by producing and writing and winning commercials for brands like Sir Kinnikor's Vision Mission campaign in 2016, and her love for short-form content really pulled her into the world of digital media, and here's where she finds herself today. Alex is going to talk us through the video revolution and learning how we as brands and marketers can engage the creator economy. Alex, you doing good this morning?
Absolutely fantastic, Danilo. So excited to be here.
Good. In a video format, off you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, good morning. And I just wanted to say that I'm so passionate in general about digital video. I can talk about this for hours. So I'm going to try my very best to be super conscious and just really like stick to, let's say, the meaty bits. But all right, so I think by now, before we kind of get into the conversation just about like what kind of video works in the world of the creator economy, I do think it's really important just to slightly track back a little bit, right? So I'm pretty sure that everybody in the room today knows exactly for the fact that video in general is taking over. There's been so many webinars, conferences, and I'm sure blogs and pieces that you guys have read online where essentially, yeah, we really understand the psychology behind why psychology and technicality behind why video actually works. So I do just want to spend some time about why it really just took such a huge boom online, right, in the social media space. And surprise, guys, yes, I'm bringing up COVID again. I'm pretty sure a lot of you think, goodness gracias, Alex, COVID is like so 2020. But yes, I'm bringing it up, hopefully for the last time for the next few years. But it really all began in COVID and thanks to COVID. And essentially, this is where the rise of the creator economy really took a huge spin. And it was an incredibly monumental shift into what people were creating for social media and also what people started to use social media for. And essentially, content that was authentic and specifically authentic video really experienced a massive boom to the point where you had like these massive tech giants who really took bold leaps into supporting what we now know and understand to be the creator economy. So for example, TikTok, they were practically the pioneers of modern content creation back then. They invested heavily into the South African market, which is quite interesting. And then also a really cool, interesting stat is that Facebook, for example, globally invested $1 billion into creator monetization programs. So helping creators use the platform to make money, right? And here's something that's even more interesting and quite a shocker. Never really thought about it in this way, but a whopping 43% of creators are now raking in basically just making an above average comfortable living where they're making more than $50,000 or more annually, which is pretty incredible. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, and linking to exactly what Pierre was talking about, is that the days of using influencers online as almost like a mouthpiece for a brand is pretty much dwindling. And it's really all about leveraging and working with creators who are there to create content and talk about what they're really passionate about, right? So yeah, it's just all about authentic partnerships. And I think that key word here from a content perspective and from a messaging perspective is authentic. And just a local example, I'm not sure how many of you guys know Miss Angler, and also just to say that there are so many incredible local examples about this, but just about how she basically leveraged the boom. But yeah, I mean, amongst many industries that really kind of like were turned upside down because of COVID, right? Being a primary school teacher, this industry was one of them. And yeah, basically what Miss Angler does is she leverages her platforms, so video first platforms like YouTube, like TikTok, where she's sharing content with students that really, really offer value. And at the same time, she's able to practice her craft, practice her passion. And yeah, basically in a nutshell, she now earns more through her content creation than an average teacher's salary. And I'm going to pretty much leave that one there. So all of this gets even more exciting, is really just to also position the fact that the continent that we are all on right now, perhaps there is somebody who's tuning in outside of Africa. If so, welcome and hello. But the point is that the African continent is the one that is positioned to profit from this creator economy boom the most. And there's a multitude of reasons for why that's so. Primarily, it is because Africa's demographics are predominantly made up of young people. Yeah, I'm not sure how many of you guys knew that, but statistics show that in over 40 African countries, more than 50% of the population is under the age of 20. And getting a little bit more specific into South Africa, 35% of our population, they're youth, we're youth, 15 to 34 years old. So yeah, guys, I guess the point is that the growth really, really starts here. And it means that it's the perfect time to invest in understanding the creator economy as a marketer, as a brand, and yeah, basically building it into how you tackle your strategies. And the creator economy, in a real sense, is really just a smaller part of a larger kind of microcosm known as the gig economy. I don't know how many of you have heard of the gig economy before, but essentially within the gig economy, there's the passion economy. Within the passion economy sits this creator economy that we are talking about. And essentially the gig economy that kind of sits on top of the pyramid, if we want to call the circle a pyramid, not sure, but it's really categorized by short-term contracts, freelance work, and it's not really specific to any kind of industry. So it can be, for example, electricians, plumbers, tutors, hairdressers, Uber drivers also fall part of the big gig economy, where the second tier is very, very similar contextually to the gig economy, so the passion economy. Just one significant twist and one significant thing that separates the two is that the passion economy is driven by people who do contract and freelance work, but through things that they are super passionate about. So their career is based on what they're passionate about, right? And that can be people like your writers, actors, musicians, etc. And then we finally get to this third tier, and that's this creator economy that we did define a little bit earlier with Pierre. But essentially, the creator economy, even though also now similar to the passion economy, has another strikingly, let's say, striking element of a difference. And that's the fact that it is people who do work that they're super passionate about, except the difference is the medium in which they deliver. And that medium is its digital spaces. So here we're talking about people like podcasters that we'll hear more a little bit later from John, from vloggers, online course creators, virtual teachers, etc., etc. And yeah, the last stat to kind of wrap up this segment of statistics is that in a nutshell, if you look at all of the different content types that creators are creating in the digital space, it really is all about video. And why video? Very quickly, yeah, just I think during COVID, it really left us in a space where we were really yearning for connection. And apart from businesses and people realizing that actually Zoom works perfectly well, we can all work in a virtual setting, video in the social space, we almost started to see it as a form of like teleportation into each other's lives and to really get intimate and to, yeah, share stories that we really resonate with. So in a nutshell, we're humans and we want to feel things, and creators, in the way that they're creating, because they're putting their passions up front, it just makes their video content absolutely great. All right, so yeah, in a nutshell, the creator economy is thriving because the content that you know these guys produce, it just simply ticks all of the boxes. And very, very briefly, I just wanted to talk about some of those box to tick when it comes to video. And at Special Effects Media, generally, we love to follow the 4 V's kind of video creation strategy. And the 4 V's are making sure that in any video or video strategy that you create, that piece of content is offering value, that in a holistic strategy, you're offering variety, that as a third point, you really touch on vulnerability. So giving people something to relate to, and in a way, kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve. And last but not least is also virality. So not only tapping into trends as a brand and as a marketer, but also, yeah, maybe causing some virality with the content that you create. And video also isn't just video. There's so many different forms and types of video, and creators really have to make these decisions every single day about, you know, how they're going to reach their audiences. Podcasts and vodcasts, such a highlight. I'm excited for John to unpack that just now. But I do want to zone in on live streaming for a second. I really do think that a lot of brands and marketers don't leverage enough live streaming themselves, but also through creators that they may partner with. And the myth that I wanted to bust is that live streaming is absolutely not dead. In fact, the global live streaming market is growing constantly. Between 2022 and 2023, it grew by 21%, and these numbers are really just expected to double by 2027, which is quite interesting. And also, so many benefits of live streaming, guys. I'm sure you guys know this, but I think one benefit that I did just want to single and highlight is that it is simply what audiences want. There is a stat that basically says that over 80% of consumers watch live brand videos instead of reading their in-feed content, which is quite interesting and something to think about. All right. And then I wanted to go into a little bit about how the creator economy and how creators within the economy make their money. And yeah, just to start off and to say that you as the brand aren't the only way that they are generating an income for their businesses. There are so many other different avenues. So sponsored content, yes, still being kind of the top winner there, but they also basically work through platform payouts, creating affiliate content, merchandising, subscriptions, tipping and gifting, and etc. And yeah, basically there's a lot of complex strategies that they can lean on and do lean on when it comes to monetizing in the world of the creator economy. And yeah, just to share an exciting project just in the context of what we're talking about today, is that with all of this juicy opportunity that exists within the creator economy, our team hosted this really epic 8-week program that literally took in thousands of YouTube content creators with the objective of helping them achieve consistency within their content creation. But not only that, but also really wanting them and helping them to grow as a creator and as a business. And just as a matter of interest to mention that one of the focuses, so we had these different weekly challenges, and one of the weeks we had a strong focus on this brand signaling challenge. And it entailed creators going out there and creating content for brand signaling. And there really were a handful that essentially won their very first brand campaigns thanks to that. So it really just shows the activity of the creator economy, which is so exciting. So what now, Alex? So really at the end of the day, I just wanted you guys to take home one main message, just to kind of think about as we kind of go forward into the years and beyond, as this really is the beginning. And essentially that one message is two pieces of advice. Number one, work with creators. Creators have worked so hard to build up their strong communities. And I think there really is a massive opportunity to tap into that. The second one, which may be a little bit different, but it's kind of a change of, not a change of mind, a change of frame of mind, maybe. And as a brand, be a creator. I think that we can learn a lot from how creators create content that is aimed at being authentic and building up communities, and also encouraging people to start having conversations online. And in order to thrive on social media, that's what any account should be doing, whether you're a brand or whether you're a creator. And yeah, guys, that's me. Thanks for watching.
Alex, thank you so much. Really insightful. I know video is a huge challenge for most brands to try and tackle and get at scale, and the amount of quantity of video and how to tell good stories and how to find good partners is a real challenge for brands in the 21st century. So we'll be keen in the Q&A to answer some of the questions that our audience have about creating content at scale for that creator economy. And if you do have any questions for any of our speakers, please do post them in the Q&A section on screen. You will see them right at the bottom of your screen as well too. And we can obviously unspotlight Alex there on the background, and we can get ready for our next speaker. So if you do have any questions for our speakers, please do pop them in the Q&A and we'll make sure that they are answered for you. That leads us to our last speaker for the day before we engage you in the Q&A. And we're going to zone in on one area within the creator economy that has so much room for growth and potential. So on the tip of everybody's tongue, even video platforms like YouTube are highly prioritizing sort of podcasting and video podcasting. And the man sitting at the center of all of that on the continent at the moment is John Savage, the CEO of African Podcast Network, one of the most passionate people that I know in the world of radio, that then, music and then into radio and now into podcasting. If this man loves his eardrums, I do not know why he's chosen this particular medium. First blew them off with music and then blew them off with radio and now wants to blow them off again in the podcasting world. John from the African Podcast Network, lucky to have you here this morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll leave the stage to you, my friend. Tell us more about what's happening in the podcasting world in Africa, in the creator economy.
All right, thanks. I'm going to just, I'm going to try and cover a lot of bases because I think there's so much confusion in the podcasting space. So I'm going to do a lot of talking, and then if I have time, I'll present some of the things as well because there's a lot of sort of stats to back up a lot of this. But I'll just start by telling you that the podcasting space is growing globally. I've just come back from the London podcast show, which was massive and really inspiring. There's so much interest in Africa and South Africa around the world that's just starting to develop. A year ago was barely there. Now it's just starting to get very focused on Africa. Next 2 weeks' time, I'm off to DC for the podcast movement. So there is this very sort of global infrastructure that's connecting around podcasting. So I'm really coming from a wide perspective and happy to answer questions on more specific things. So I hope I'm able to color something in and not only just create more questions. So the three things I just want to look at is one, what is the creator's perspective of what is happening on the ground in the industry in South Africa for podcasting? Two, what are the advertisers' perspective, hurdles, perceptions and misperceptions? And where's the middle ground? What is the opportunity that's currently on the ground? So let's start on the podcaster side. On a positive note, the podcasting content creation space is very healthy internationally and locally. The industry is roughly worth about $12 billion, but it's growing 36% annually. And I know there's a lot of talk about podcasts. Is the podcasting thing over yet? It hasn't even started. It's just a fledgling industry. It is the perfect time to sort of be getting in there. So we're seeing that South Africa ranks 5th globally in terms of podcasting, which is an incredible stat. If you think about, we're very late to the party here in Africa. Spotify only came to South Africa and Africa in like 2020, 2021. It was super late to the party, but our adoption into podcasting has been massive, 5th in the world. And as a market indicator about the size of podcasting, and more importantly, how this shows how media has changed from massive conglomerate network media to independent podcasts or independent content creators. Joe Rogan, as an example, the name we all know, his show alone is not only bigger than CNN, it's 3 times bigger. It's actually bigger than CNN, MSNBC, and NBC combined. His one single show, and he's not alone. There are other podcasters that have similar size audience. He's also the big one, but just think about how big that is. That's bigger than any network just by himself. And that has really shifted how content creators work and how brands work with content work with creators. In the local environment, we're having massive success. There's so many huge podcasts. MacG hit over 1 million listeners and audience last January this year. We've got Vusi Tembakwayo, who's becoming a global star. Mpumi Ledwaba, one of the biggest female podcasters, absolutely smashing it. Dan Corder, whose podcast is now he's put on pause because he's been hosted as a presenter at ENCA. There's so many great podcasts with massive audiences. So the content space, it's absolutely vibing. What is important to notice about that is that it is these independent content creators, the creator economy, they have relationships with their audiences that is stronger than some TV channels or a radio station or traditional media. It's like almost an uncancelable, deep connection that they have with them. And that is a very powerful thing. So they're growing audiences. It's hard to grow. They're growing audiences over time, but their connection with their audiences is very, very, very strong. And we're seeing a lot of success in true crime. There's a massive true crime podcast. Histories does very, very well. And sports. sports, as well as entertainment, all those sorts of things. And so these strong, loyal audiences actually are outperforming in traditional media. So it's the industry that's struggling to catch up with them. So where the pain points are in the creator economy for a podcaster are, firstly, they all have siloed metrics. So it's very hard from the outside to measure the size of the podcaster community or their audiences, because each podcaster has their own metrics. So it's hard to see the scale because you're seeing all these independent podcasters. And we know that the Spotifys and the Apples, they're very secretive about what the bigger analytics are. So it's hard to know what those metrics are. Revenue is a big problem for content creators. They are getting premium audiences, the audiences that brands and channels wish they have, but they aren't able to fulfill the monetization part of it. A lot of people are complaining about YouTube monetization because it's the easiest and most obvious one. It's too low for the quality of what people are doing and the audiences that people are delivering. Tough brand partnerships are super tough because brands are struggling to know how to engage with content creators, and content creators actually don't know often how to engage with brands, and that's creating a lot of problems. And this came up earlier in Pia's thing, talk about bad client briefs, and that from the client perspective, great content creators with incredible potential and solid audience relationships are getting briefs that make no sense in the environment that they're playing in. So there's a lot of frustration on that side. So now let's jump ship and go over to the advertiser's perspective. So on the advertiser perspective, we're kind of at that point in the industry. If you remember when social media was a new thing, those of you old enough to remember, like the brands were starting to go like, oh shit, I've got to start a Instagram, Facebook page now. I don't know what it is, but I just need to have one. And they didn't know why they had it, but they just started to get, the industry forced them to get in there. And that's where we are in the podcasting space. So all these brands are like, I don't know what it is, but I need to get into podcasting, I guess. And it's creating a lot of pressure in advertising because the infrastructure around podcasting is not solid yet. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And that's what I want to sort of trying to use this talk to clear up a little bit of. There's a misunderstanding of the power of podcasting because it walks a hybrid between traditional media of radio, because it has the premium quality of radio and television, that premium high ad spend that we want, and it's mixed in with this programmatic sort of large reach, Google ads and all of those sorts of things. It sits in the middle. So it's hard to know all the different elements that podcasting provides. How do I get my scale and the reach that I need for this metric, and also get engagement and conversions on the other thing? And podcasting is able to do all of those things in different ways, but you need to understand the environment, and there must be better ways to actually integrate with them. Spotify's total global domination hasn't been helpful to this space because there are a few problems. Spotify, and I know Danilo's team and the SFX team know this well. We're in Africa, right? So when Spotify launches all their cool ad tech, or YouTube does all their cool ad tech, it doesn't come to Africa till years later, and most of it is not available here. So Spotify, even though they are making moves, their strongest ad tech is not actually available in Africa and South Africa yet, creating other issues. There are access issues because podcasters are siloed currently. That we don't have a lot of major networks. These siloed podcasters, it's hard to reach them. It's like the whole influencer pain. I really want to work with this podcaster. Is it the right podcaster? What are his stats? I'm going to DM him an offer over Instagram and hope he gets back to me. And that's kind of how it's perceived. That's the perception. This is of like how you're supposed to get hold of podcasters. There's a knowledge gap. Podcasters often lack the media know-how. It's an unregulated environment. And brands don't really understand how to always interact with these creators. So that's part of the misconceptions that are there. And then a big one, a brand safety. Is there brand safety? And there's a perceived lack of scale and safety in the podcasting space. However, let's talk about some of the positives from an advertising perspective. Guaranteed listens, highly targeted audiences. So one of the beauties of podcasting in the advertising perspective is the fact that in traditional media ad spend, wastage is a very big deal. If you pay for an ad and get 1 million listens on a radio station. That million people is an estimation. It could be a lot less than that. It could be a lot more, and that's considered wastage. You're throwing money into the pot and you're hoping something lands, and you're kind of getting reports that make your Excel spreadsheets add up so that you can report to the client. But are you actually getting the benefit of every penny that you're spending? In podcasting, you are. In terms of the targeting, in terms of what you're able to get back, in terms of the metrics, it is so detailed. You know who's listening, where they're watching or listening. Just a quick sidestep, podcasting in this environment is both video and audio, just a clarification. Jumping back into what I was talking about. So the metrics and the reliability, the ability to target is so strong at the moment that there's virtually no wastage. It's a low cost, high impact, highly targeted play, which is I'm saying it spans into the digital programmatic media space, but it has the power of premium. Premium being that it's appointment listening, that people are choosing to listen and they're engaging with your ads. And then another thing is just the legacy problems in advertising where brands are struggling with these digital metrics and how to make them work or how to access them and how to understand them. So that's the kind of landscape of where things are. And in the middle is where is the opportunity. And I'll tell you, this is not a punt for our business. With the Africa Podcast Network, understanding a lot of what I'm explaining to you has changed a lot of our business model. At the beginning, we thought we were a network that had to protect our podcasters, but we now see ourselves as facilitators of the industry. We now represent not only our own podcasters, but all the networks, or many of the networks, as well as international networks like the BBC and Amazon. We represent them in Africa. And the reason is because this opportunity in the middle is really becoming very sophisticated, and where brands need to understand that a lot of those legacy issues, and when I say legacy in podcasting, I'm talking about a year ago, are being solved by technology and relationships. So currently, the opportunity in the middle, let's talk about podcasting quickly. I'm going to do a screen share at this point. Am I going to do a screen share actually? Yes, I am. Sorry about the delay. And there we go. So let's just talk about podcasting. There we go. So podcasting and audio outperforms, and this is research by Lumens, by Dentsu, and by Nielsen. They outperform display visual ads in attention by over 50%. The power of podcasting with all the research. And this is very, very important, is that in the programmatic space, we are so desperate to get our ads into unwanted environments to show up so that we get an impression, and that does give us the reach that we want. But podcasting outperforms all the other media in terms of actually the attention metric, which is the gold standard, because the advertising is about getting your brand not just seen, but remembered and engaged with. So yes, in a digital ad spend that is programmatic, you can get that, and you can also do programmatic in podcasting, which I'll show you as well. But the other part of podcasting, engaging with live reads or getting the podcast to engage, 50% attention. It's actively engaged listenerships, and audio ads work harder, 41% average recall and 10% average brand choice uplift, which is huge. And also fewer ads make more of an impact. So yes, it's a premium listenership, but you're actually getting people. We've found in some campaigns that we're running, we're getting between 90 and sometimes 100% listen through rate, meaning people aren't skipping ads in podcasts. And the reason is, in my opinion, is that because when a podcast is on, it's usually in your pocket. It's too much of a mission to take out your phone and skip it. So you're also getting your ads played. Then audio ads have the largest ROI of any platform, 4 times on short-term sales, 6 times on long-term brand building. And if you look down here, the boost in sales from digital audio, 16% in the auto, 31% in retail. So really powerful metrics that are supporting how powerful podcasting is. And podcasting is able to actually execute on a whole bunch of different things. And because I'm just worried about time, I'm going to show you a few examples. So podcasting can create various pillars for your brand. So let's start with awareness. So currently, even now, you can buy massive scaled programmatic buys in the podcasting space, with over 10 million access to unique listeners into South Africa alone. And what that means is you can target local or even international podcasts that are played in South Africa and have your programmatic served pre-roll actually on the podcast as a pre-roll, as a mid-roll, highly targeted at the audience, not the podcast. So if you are if you want an ice cream brand, you can even do temperature targeting. So if you're an ice cream brand wanting to sell ice cream only to 17 to 19-year-olds, only in Durban, only when the temperature is over 30 degrees, you can hyper target that so that only listeners who are listening to any of the podcasts that fit your demographic get your targeted ad served to them. Only charged on a full listener through, so that someone listens to an entire ad, and all metrics completely, and impressions and listenership reported back. Here's an example.
Hot and uncomfortable, man. I mean, I even sweat in the shower. I have to change my clothes.
To skip the moaning, just say skip now. Okay, skipping to the KIF stuff.
It's summer. Time to do the things you smack. Download the MTN app today and skip to the KIF stuff with MTN.
So that's an example of a pre-roll in a podcast. You get full listenership through impressions, 97% through rate. So highly, highly, highly measurable. In addition, there are lots of other integrations into the podcast that serve the rest of this, which is your engagement and your conversion rate. These are the things that push things like a traditional live read that happens, as you know, on radio, where the podcaster themselves will read in your language.
Guys, I know a lot of you are like me, busy, or sometimes even forget to get some of your groceries. But worry not, because you can get fresh, fast groceries delivered to you with Pick and Pay ASAP.
And then educational power spots. This is a very powerful tool for podcasters. And this is where you give them a few selected points about your brand, and they will weave it into the conversation and talk about your brand in their own language to their audience. And this is so powerful when brands are working with podcasts, not to dictate too much the way you would in a traditional environment, because the podcasters know how to talk to their audience better than you. So if they can talk about your brand in their own language, this is where we get the highest conversion and the highest attention.
But let us know why you're going to give us the 2 stars. On that note, guys, I really believe in higher learning. Level believes in higher learning.
Yes, sir.
He's got his full-time job now because of his degree in economics. I'm able to scale up my company because of the way I think, because of school. And today I want to talk to you guys about the #1 leading IT.
Cool. I'm seeing there's a lot of other options here. I think I'm out of time, so I'll leave it there maybe for a Q&A. And I see that Danilo has popped up with his checkered flag, but thank you for your time.
This is my what's called Oscars moment for you there, John. I just don't sing as well as the Oscars music, but I appreciate it. Really, really cool insights, and I'm seeing a lot of great questions in the Q&A. So on that note, because we've only got 7 minutes left of our webinar, let's get our speakers back on the screen. If we could have Alex and Pierre come and join us for our Q&A for a second. Firstly, thank you to all of you for your great insights and passion. Most importantly, probably the most impassioned group of speakers I've seen. Pierre, I'm going to start with you quickly on a question that is interesting. It says for Pierre, an anonymous question says, given that brands and agencies know how they should work with influencers or creators, why is it that they are still not succeeding and following best practice, even at Cannes?
Very interesting question. I think the main reason is because we think of creators as a media channel, the same way as we do on a normal media buy. And so the way and the people that are responsible for creators all over the world still are people who are not specialists, who are responsible for billboards, radio, TV. And so you get your insights first, you go to your creative agency second, you get your big idea, and then you go, where can I distribute it? And so you come to creators with talking points, and you come to creators with a distribution strategy, which is how, from a process and a flow perspective, most brands work. They also have their budgets split according to campaigns, as opposed to an always on budget, meaning it's difficult to have an ongoing relationship, and you just come to people when you've got a campaign and a message to share. So what we're seeing, some of the more people like Elf Cosmetics or Gymshark, or companies that were built digitally first and social first, is they leverage creators as their creative resources, as their creative partners, and they start with creators as their ideation, their feedback channels, their insights channel, and from there, they work with them to develop strategies and to distribute those strategies over a long period of time. So the main reason why is because, to kind of summarize what I'm saying, is right now, influencers or creators are treated as influencers as a media channel, and they are given talking points and existing kind of creative big idea to share with, as opposed to being part of the entire process as an always-on partner. And it's very difficult to shift without shifting your entire strategy.
And let's not also like pretend like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Influencer marketing, creative economy is not the only one struggling with this. We're still to this day trying to get agencies to partner with brands where it feels like a partnership and not like this sort of like arm's length approach. You're still trying to get sort of understanding programmatic buying and how that works and what's best practices and why we're not abiding by visual first, video first content, make it feel more organic. So there's lots of lessons to learn in industry overall. Alex, the next question is for you, but I think the team could answer this generically. All of us could probably have a view, and I would like your views on this because it's a nice way to be able to wrap up our Q&A, I think. But in terms of creating content, is it your belief that brands should be creators and engage in the creator economy, or do brands need to tap into the creator economy as advertisers and marketers? What's your view?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think, look, guys, in a nutshell, a strategy should really entail a balance of both, right? So definitely engage with creators where you can and where you can afford to. But at the same time, as a brand, you're having to create content anyway. So as I mentioned in the preso, like definitely take inspiration for how creators approach building their own communities, right? And from a brand perspective, from my side, it really is two things. Don't sell, even though we know you need to, don't sell, rather tell a story and offer value. And the second thing is don't also overthink production. Video really doesn't have to be that complicated, but we need a whole nother webinar for that. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. Pierre, do you disagree? Agree?
No, I agree. I always agree with Alex. He's way smarter than me.
All right, cool. So in your view as well too, should brands try and consider becoming creators if they want to engage audiences? Audiences are watching creators in their economy and the content that they're watching. Should brands therefore think like creators when creating?
What I'll add just is that every brand has people inside their business, and putting forward those people and putting their voice forward as creators or as spoke people is always a good thing. We associate, our brand associates with people and builds relationship with people, not with logos. Hiring creators is an incredibly good strategy for brands. About 1% of all people on social media are creators, which means probably 1% of your customers are creators. Hiring people who are creators to come inside your business and bring that communication from inside out is something that most businesses should embrace. We've done it. We've seen customers do it. It's extremely powerful.
Love it. John, you can either add or I've got a question for you. Which would you choose? Add.
I'll add. I've got a different opinion, even though it's the same one. It's just something that's a bit softer, but it's a commercial opportunity, and that is, and I'm so deep in podcasting space, it's relevant, but I'm coming from that perspective, and that is, I think that you need both strategies as a brand. However, where there is really low-hanging fruit is that the podcaster content creators actually need support. So brands working with podcasters simultaneously supporting the industry is actually really good for their business because they're trying to get in front of their audiences. It will grow their economy and it will help them get more into the content game for themselves. But it's kind of a relationship building thing. They should see creators as partners that they want to support and work with because it works for the brand and the creators and the industry.
Yita asked a question in the Q&A that I'm just going to leave on screen. You've basically answered it already, but she also messaged in the chat to say, but clients are incredibly conservative. Is that the view generally, that brands are too, well, we just see what happened now with the Olympics in Paris and what happened to brands like Adidas, etc., and their communication style. Brands are very afraid of making mistakes. This economy is scary.
I'm going to just jump in and say education from our side, from everyone in this room side, is like 80% of the business. If the brands are scared, it's because they don't understand, and they don't understand because you don't understand, and you don't understand. And so the communication and the education piece with case studies is really critical. It's what most of us probably spend most of our lives doing. And fear is natural. And what I'm also seeing, and I'm just going to put this out there, a lot of international brands are starting to look at South Africa because they're seeing that our local brands are not taking advantage of the opportunity. So they're jumping into that fray as well. So I think just really the education piece here, understanding the infrastructure and ecosystem is the problem.
I want to add one more thing. I was listening to the CMO of Elf Cosmetics, which is a $1 billion cosmetics company that came out of really nowhere, just grew over the last few years and became a huge DTC company. And she attributes the success of their brand and of any business today to creating zero distance between the executives or the decision makers in the company and their community, and zero distance between the insights and the feedback from the community and the ability to execute. And the only way you can do this is if you have relationships with people who are creators or influencers within different communities, and you talk to them and you have those conversations, not at only agency level or only junior level, but within the entire business where you're externally focused towards your community and the creators that form part of that community.
I love it. It's almost why we see such a big rise in owned platforms on community management, how the community managers are the new marketing managers. They're the closest to your customer. And so understanding your customer, getting as close to them as possible, you can do through engaging the creator economy or through creating your own content and learning how to engage communities that you've built as well. Gents and lady, that is all the time we have for today. I appreciate all of you in your very, very busy lives, in your very, very smart worlds in this creator economy, making time for us today. So thank you, John, Alexandra, and Pierre Casuto. Thanks for all the emojis and reactions on the Zoom call. I really appreciate you guys attending the Insight series with us today as part of the IAB. And if you guys want to reach out to any of them, the email addresses are available to you. So please do reach out to them at any given moment. But thank you all for attending. Thank you to our sponsors for being part of the Insight series. We wouldn't be able to make this possible without you. I know our next episode is going to be just as exciting. So if you guys are really keen to join us next time, on screen right now, you can see is the next episode in August. It's navigating the future of new data frontiers. And so if you're into analytics and data, that is the episode for you. And like I said, a big thank you to BIS Community, Ornico, the Marketing Association of South Africa, Everlytic, and Romoke. And we'll see you all in August. Have a lovely rest of the week. Goodbye.